What up, YouTube family, soul family? Welcome to Wisdom Rants with Randy. I am your host, Randy. Here I am. Thank you for being here with me today. I am so grateful for each and every one of you for joining me in this space where we explore deeper wisdoms and really the depth of my mind and how it operates and how I can bring my light into the world to maybe add some benefit or value to your life. And so that is why I'm here with you today, is just to share. And today's topic is my mission statement. My mission statement, it really comes from many different webs in my life, but the biggest one is helping humanity restore their connection with ourselves, to deepen the connection we have with the self, and really like developing that relationship inside ourselves where we no longer need to search or look for it externally and outside of us. And so yeah, I'm just here to share that a little bit about that, and also maybe a little bit of background story of what got me here. I have little memory of my childhood, and there were many ups that I do remember, but there were also many downs. And at a part of my life, I remember very much. Don't know where I left off. Yeah, so let's take it back a couple steps. I myself know what it feels like to not know who you are. I know what it feels like to not know where I belong or what my place is in this earth, and why the frig I even was born. I can remember so vividly being at my high school graduation, just thinking like, what's the point? Like, what is the point in this life? What is the point of being alive? Like, why? Who cares? Who cares if I'm here? Who cares if I'm not? I was probably in a deep state of self-destructive tendencies and behaviors, and super addicted to drugs at this time in my life. And I really viewed the world as just this evil place where we just come to suffer and die. And that was a really awful perspective of the world, and really painful to live as well. And so in the experience of that, and because of it, that is maybe where my drive comes from so deeply, to mend the bridge from suffering to love, to help those who also experience the same levels of darkness that I have in my life, and to assist humanity in that way where we've become so disconnected from life itself, and so consumed by our own darkness that we don't really see a way out. And to restore that connection with the self. And restoring your connection with self means also spirit, God, whoever that higher power is to you. When we are restoring our connection within, we are restoring a connection to something much higher, because we recognize when we go into the depth of self-love and go into the depth of restoring our connection within, we tap into our heart space, and we recognize that our heart space actually holds in itself its own emotion. And science has even shown the heart holds memories. Maybe not memories, but it holds, it's not memories, but it holds history in a way. I don't know the total science of it, but it's true. You can look into it. And there's things called brain and heart coherence. And, one woman had a heart transplant, and with it came the memories that the woman who lost the heart, that heart took her memories from that woman that had passed and into the next woman. And this woman was having nightmares of this other woman's life. And so anyways, that's a super deep rabbit hole in its own realm of things. But Yeah, really to dive into, what disconnects us and what connects us back with ourselves. And for me, it's always been something greater than myself. It's always been something greater than, this tiny little microscopic view that, on our own emotion, or our own pain. We can bitch about the coffee we spilt on our leg and the driver in front of us, but in the grand scheme of things, like when you really zoom out, like look at your life, because I guarantee you it's a lot better than a lot of people. And that doesn't mean you don't have the right to like bitch and complain when you feel it comes up, right? Like one of the things that I've been practicing and that I feel is so important is to feel the pain, feel the icky, the sticky, like F this driver, screw this pair of pants, whatever it is to you. Um, but then like let that go. Like don't let that something that you like cling on to, because so often we can get stuck in those emotions. We get stuck in that and we're like, that mother for ruined my day. And it doesn't have to be like that. We can just be like, you're a dumbass and I'm gonna move on and have a good day anyways. Um, it doesn't have to be anything more than that. So, food for thought, it's a good practice to have. And I'm going to recalibrate myself back to the topic. I'm talking about my mission statement and also, background story. So, background story, stemming from also that part of my past where addiction was very loud, escapism, avoidance. I didn't want to deal with any of my stuff. I didn't know how to deal with any of my stuff. And when I started discovering ways to deal with it, I was really mad at the system for not implementing these tools prior, when we were growing up. Two of the things I feel failed me the most in life, or failed, I don't know if failed's the most appropriate word, because I don't agree with being a victim to your circumstances, but I do see the faults that lie in the system, especially in Western society where I grew up in Canada, also in the Americas. 100% are totally on this end of the stick as well. Was the school system and the medical system. And I guess Canada's medical system is a little bit better because we have free medical. Sure, that sounds great, but when they don't actually help you, and sure, when it comes to like surgery and things that are like really needing immediate attention, our medical system is awesome. But I dealt with our medical system in ways that, it wasn't awesome. And I'll share a little bit on that. But first, I'm going to start with the school system. So I say the school system failed me, and it didn't just fail me, but there are faults. There are faults in the system because I feel we didn't get taught how to deal with our shit. And when I say shit, I mean our emotions, our mental capacity. We didn't learn about our bodies and we learned about like the sex organs and don't have too much sex or you'll get this herpes and blah blah blah, or like don't do drugs, kids, these are what drugs are, don't do them. Like these are the main topics of that get brought into the school system that really, sure, those are beneficial things, but we didn't dive into anything along the lines of this is what emotional stress is, and this is what mental stress is, and this is what a healthy relationship looks like, and this is what a not healthy relationship looks like. This is how you deal with your instabilities internally, and this is how you don't deal with your instabilities. There was never a moment that I can recall in school where the education that was coming from teachers, unless it was personal and I went and asked a teacher for guidance outside of class, there wasn't there wasn't assistance in areas that I felt were really, really needed. And my outlook in school was, these are the skids, those are the preppy kids, and it was all like super categorized. And if you did that, you were a part of this group. If you smoked, you were over there. If you hung out there, you're with those kids. And then they all had labels and, you know, um, and that's maybe how my brain operates. Everything is like super categorized and labeled, but I also feel like society implemented that in a super large way. It was just like, if you talk like this, look like this, be like this, then you're classified as this. If you wear these skirts and those shoes and that hat, and that's where you belong, is in this group, right? It was just black and white, it felt. And so coming out of high school, I often felt like I couldn't fit the box that fit in, even being in high school, middle school, elementary school, not so much, because I don't think we're really cliquey when we're that young. But as we grow older and we get into these groups, I was much like that one and much like this group and a little bit like that group. Like I really couldn't identify where I belonged, and I didn't feel like I belonged because I felt like I was a little bit of everything and a little bit of everyone. And that's a big essence of what kind of distracted me or made me feel, I shouldn't say made me feel, but it caused the separateness from me and others. It was like, okay, I either need to condense myself to be just like this group of people so I feel like I can fit in, or I'm just going to keep expressing myself authentically and hoping that that's enough to fit in wherever feels right at that time. And so fast forward, the school system, boom, didn't really support us in that sense to really know how to handle our stuff, discover who we are even, My sense of self-identity is just growing to its like strong point, and I'm 25. I don't know how old some other people are when they are actually gaining this full sense of like self-identity, and without the masks that society has like taught and put on us. So anyways, there's so much more in that rabbit hole that we could go down, but we're going to fast forward a little bit to the medical system, right? So it was like the school system, or just like education in general, wasn't there to support us to really grow a healthy life, and a healthy state or healthy states in our mind. It didn't help us grow, um, you know, how to develop a healthy relationship with yourself to begin with, and that's actually the most important part prior to getting into a relationship, or even having healthy relationships with our parents and whatnot. And so from there, I recognized the faults in the school system, the faults in our education system, then led to the medical system, where this lack of education caused this dysfunction, not just in me, and I wouldn't say it caused the dysfunction, but the lack of knowledge and the tools and resources to know how to deal with your emotions, which I truly believe is the heart and root of all disease and illness, unless you broke your leg. I mean, even that, I could probably relate to the emotions in some sense, because I truly believe everything is always offering us guidance. Like life is happening for us, not to us. And so if it's happening for us, everything that happens to us is just a little bit more guidance. If you get sick, your body's telling you you're overworked and you need to rest. If I paralyzed the left side of my body at one point in my life, fell down some stairs, boom, I couldn't move the left side of my body. And your left side is your feminine side. At that time in my life, I had already known that was hugely ignoring like my need to rest and relax and really listening to myself in a softer way. I was always like, suck it up, buttercup, just push through, these really like masculine, like grind, thoughts, and boom, I fell down the stairs, and I had no choice but to lay in bed for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Do you have any idea how insane you go when you're stuck in one position for 3 weeks? And then when you stand up, the pills the hospital put you on got you so off your rocker, you don't even know what you stood up for by the time you stood up. And then you just end up laying back down, and it is the most excruciating thing anyway. So what I'm saying is, if we learn how to deal with our shit, emotional shit, then it wouldn't manifest into our external world. It wouldn't be projected in our relationships. It wouldn't come up as these very, like, sometimes awful, horrific, painful experiences that we have to go through. And I'm not saying all experiences that are, maybe perceived as negative or no bueno, that we don't like, they don't all come from the emotion, but they're more or less probably a projection of our internal world. And so the fact that we weren't educated on our internal world, and then the medical system that followed that also wasn't there to support us in the ways that we really, really needed it, with the lack of knowledge that we already had, so I had a lot of resentment in my heart, because I saw this area where we desperately needed knowledge and support. And then when the lack of that in our education failed, then you go to the medical system, where we also don't have the support or the tools or the resources to really offer us ways to heal. And so, in an overall grand scheme of things, this is what brings me right here, right in front of this camera, right into this space that I'm in today. I am beyond driven to offer the world, and there's a lot of it going on already, and humanity is making its way into this evolution where we can see beyond what the systems have put in place, and that we actually need much, much more than that. And so to see the collective doing it, like the podcasts, and there's endless amounts of information on YouTube to self-educate, but the fact that it wasn't put in place prior, or that somewhere along the line, did someone not say, like, hey, something's wrong over here? Like, do we really need to be learning what this is? Because I feel like what's in here might be a little bit more important to help me survive this life. In reality, like, sure, education and history of war and all these things, like, it's important. I'm not saying these things are important. Science is important. These are important things. Math, this shit's important. But math didn't help me self-regulate. Math didn't help me figure out how to take care of myself. Math, science taught me how cocaine was made. And I did a lot of that, so maybe it helped a little bit, but not really, And so, just to be clear, I am totally sober now. But yeah, these tools that we were given weren't the tools that we really, really need as humans. And, sure, if you want to go out and educate yourself about the Himalayas and geography and other things later in life, after you've got this foundation of self-identity and self-worth, and you can make sense of your own emotions inside your brain, like, then freaking go for it. But, my heart truly believes that we should have learned the basics, and the basics are the mental body, the emotional body, the spiritual body, and the physical body, Even you think about, like, when I did Food Safe, it was like, these are your dietary requirements, and dairy, meat. I'm vegan, by the way. And I feel way better than how I felt, drinking and eating dairy and meat products. And if that's what you want to do, sure. If that's what floats your boat, freaking sail away. I am in no place to tell you how to live your life. I'm just here to say that, what we've been taught isn't all we think that it was. It was like, oh, this is the end all. It was like, this is the complete everything I need. But it really wasn't, because you hit your 20s and you're like, holy shit, nobody taught me how to do my taxes or talk to a landlord or get a job, like resume, all these things, like basics, and so I'm here as an advocate for taking care of ourselves and exploring the world in that way, that, if that's really what came first, if we really developed a sense of meaning and need for learning who we are prior to learning what pi means. I failed math, so I can't even come up with the question, because I didn't succeed in that at all. But where I am succeeding is, self-care. Self-care. How we can regulate our emotions. What does self-soothing mean? I work at a daycare right now, and I look at some of these children, and I pray. I pray for their ability to learn how to self-regulate and self-soothe much, much sooner than when I learned. Because I already see, there are children that already have trauma wounds and are struggling, and perhaps, that's not being fully seen by the parents or the caretakers. And if we don't learn how to deal with that trauma, when we don't learn how to, self-regulate these emotions prior to becoming a teenager, man, we all know when you become a teenager, life goes south because you didn't get prepared for any of the hormonal shit that starts to happen in your body, your brain, your sex organs. You're just like, what the is this, and why is it happening, and why did nobody prepare me better? And I don't know if there's a better way to prepare anybody. I found my first puberty hair and was like, oh, something's wrong. Something's very wrong. At one point in my life, I remember thinking, like, where is this other hole coming from? Might be a little bit too personal to share here, but welcome. This is where I speak truth. And I think we should know. I think we should know that there's going to be an extra hole, and that it's for babies, I think that these are things that seem so minor, but they're not, because maybe to some they are, but to me, they were changing points in my life where I realized I didn't understand myself, and I didn't understand my body, and I didn't understand my mind, and what was going on, and the changes that were taking place, even though it was my body, this is my life. Sure, I'm 8 years old, but shouldn't I freaking know what's going to happen to this body as it grows bigger and older? You only look at mom, so you're like, okay, my boobs might hang. They might hang like that one day, and then you grow up and they don't, and you're like, well, that's a lot of me is not like mom, so now I'm confused. So it's a little bit of my background, and a little bit of why, or a lot of bit of why I am wholeheartedly so driven to make moves in this area of human evolution, development. I want us to see the faults in our past and correct them, and not to just be like, bad kitty, don't do that again. Like, no, let's really make change in the way we teach our children, in the way we choose to grow and live in this life. Because, man, I know so many people, and even my mother has said this to me before too. People wait. People don't even know. Sometimes this kind of mental self-awareness doesn't develop until you're 35, and then you're 35 going, how the did I get here? And to be totally honest, like, I say I'm 75 within a 25-year-old's body, because I lived a lot of this life really, really fast. I don't know how I did it. It's just kind of the cards that I was dealt and the paths I chose to take. But there's one thing and one decision that I always, always, always chose in life, was that I will not settle. And that meant that, if I'll share a sensitive story really quick. I had a very close relative that was in a meth-induced psychosis. And that person meant so much to me, and they had actually become very dependent on me at that time in my life. And even prior to that, they were and had been. And I reached to the extreme extents of helplines and our medical system looking for any type of funding or support. And when somebody's in a psychosis, you're like, let's go get you checked out. And they're like, they're out to get me, rah, rah, and it's not a joke, but I try and make light of the situation because it was a very painful experience in my life. And I tried so desperately to, I called law enforcement. I told every hotline, and I swear this one time I called like many, many hotlines, maybe 18 of them. And I remember that hotline was like, ooh, we don't have the resources to support you, but let me pass you to someone that might. Oh, we don't have the resources to support you, but let me pass you to someone who might. And I swear they passed me on and on and on and on and on until I got back to the first phone number I called. And at that point, I had really recognized how much our medical system was failing us. Like, sure, they're there. If you have a broken leg, go get her stitched up, whatever. But in the mental illness realm, and even beyond that, like addiction and, our inability to know what's going on inside of ourselves and inside here, and how to deal with it. It was really and is really lacking. And that's where I felt the most suffering, is when I recognized how my lack of knowledge had gotten me to this place of deep pain and suffering. And then from there, I had no help to get out of it. And this was also like firsthand and secondhand and thirdhand. Like I had myself experience the depths of my internal suffering and addictions and couldn't find support for it. And sure, there's addiction therapies and things like that, and AA and all. Sure, there is a certain level of assistance out there. But this is coming from, I was 18 or 16 even, and I asked every nurse in the hospital for help. Like, can somebody give me a phone number to call or offer me something to deal with a schizophrenic or psychotic family member that is heavily relying on me. I'm 16 years old. I don't have support. Nobody in that entire medical center, even right down to the psychiatrist, whatever the frig they are, that let him out after I had finally got him in the ward. She diagnosed him. I'm getting a little bit intense right now, and I'm just going to take a breath and cool down about it. I finally got this relative into the psych ward or into, I finally got him in there. And 3 days later, I got a phone call that said he's being let out because he is not of harm to anyone or himself. And prior to that, there was a lot of harmful things happening. There was things that maybe I don't want to bring into this space right now. And that was probably the most devastating point that I had ever felt. I felt abandoned by our medical system. I felt abandoned by the education system that wasn't there to support us to begin with. There was levels of pain that eroded and erupted inside of me. And I swear to God, if I can be a channel of love and light, if I can offer anything to anyone who has also felt or is moving through maybe, or has moved through any of the same experiences in any way, shape, or form. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, because these levels go deep. That was just like one little story in my abundance of thousands, where I felt like we could do better as humanity. We could do better as a collective. And so this is my mission. This is my mission statement, is like, how can I do better, and how can I be of service in the ways that anyone who has ever felt that depth of alone and like lack of resources or assistance in how to deal with their own emotional discomfort, even when dealing with a family member, even when dealing with a toxic relationship, or dealing with, and it doesn't have to be negative things. Sometimes you just can't figure out who the F you are, and you're not sure where to start or how to find yourself. I am the space for it all. I am the space, and I am not the space. I am creating the space where all of this can be and exist and come to. So if you are someone like me who has gone through, or somebody that is moving through depths of suffering, man, I swear to you, I probably have some resources, tools, tips, tricks, space in my calendar to even offer some level of support, because I know what it feels like to not have that support. And so I'm going to say it again. It's my mother effing mission to be and create the space where this level of support is available for, maybe some really dark stuff sometimes. And I know wholeheartedly that I could probably hold space for it. I 100%, I know I was born to hold space for it. And along with the certifications that continue to unfold in the realm of education, because people want to see plaques and they want to see, well, how'd you get the knowledge? I'm like, well, I grew up in psychotic places. Not necessarily psychotic places, but I've been through the ringer once or twice, been in the washer, been in the dryer, and through the ring of fire. And so here I am, spilling my heart and soul, and I hope someone out there can benefit from what I share here. And if you're someone who feels called to book a session, please, it would be an honor. It would be a freaking honor to hold space for you and whatever it is that you feel you need support for at this time. And I do so much more than just support the deep and dark stuff. I support the light and fluffy stuff too. Sometimes we just need a little shove in the right direction, a little push to take that leap where we've been scared, or just someone to listen. And so, yeah, that's where my heart and soul belongs, is in the space where I'm just able to be a channel of love and light for you. And, excuse me. So, yes, thank you. If you're still with me here, thank you so much for being with me, sharing this space with me. It's really an honor to, share. And I hope this video, something here could bring you some value or benefit. And If not, maybe the next one will. Who knows? There's always more to come. I wish you a beautiful day. And if you did like, please do comment. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you would like to see more of my content. It's totally free, by the way. It doesn't cost you a freaking dime. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your love and support. And till next time.